Hello, my dear students. Today we are talking about the exam of October 2024, and we will start with module number 1 and see the different strategies to solve numbers of questions. As you can see, one of them is the probability. We start with question number 1. The table summarizes the members of a local organization by age and whether they live north or south of Center Street. If a member of the organization is selected at random, what is the probability that the selected number is at least 45 years old? As you can see here in the table, we have north and south with these numbers, and then the total of them, we have less than 45 and at least 45 years old. This is the ages. And then the total. The question says the probability of selecting what member that is at least 45 years old. At least 45 means we are looking at this line right here with this row, 20, 85, and 105. But the question in the probability did not mention whether they are north or south. It just tells that if a member of the organization is selected at random, which means we do not focus on the north or the west or the south. We only focus on the total of the at least 45 years old, which is 105. And then we divide 105 by 135 because the probability has a rule. The probability is equal to the event we are talking about over the total. So we are talking about the event, which is the number of members that are at least 45 years old, 105, over the total of 135. Of course, this number can be simplified, but if you look at the answers, you can find it without simplifying, which is letter D. Question number 2, which expression is equivalent to this? Here we have a number 4 outside the parentheses. So here we have nothing between this 4 and this pair of parentheses, so we need to multiply. So whenever you have something like this, and we then we have a product of this number with the sum of x squared plus 6, we multiply the 4 inside this pair of parentheses. So 4 times x squared is 4x squared. Plus, and then we have to multiply also 4 by 6 to get 24, which gives us the answer, letter A. Question number 3, for the linear function f, the graph of y is equal to f of x in the xy plane has a slope of 1 over 4 and passes through the point 0 and 5, which equation defines f. So if you look here, you can find that all of them are written in the form of slope-intercept. So we have slope-intercept form could be written like this: f of x is equal to mx plus b. That's the slope-intercept form of a linear equation. This is, of course, a linear equation. So instead of m, we know that m is the slope. We can replace the number m by 1 over 4. And b is the y-intercept. Y-intercept happens when we have a number 0 in the x-coordinate. So we always have this point as a y-intercept value. So y-intercept happens when the value of x is equal to 0. And this is, as you can see here, given in the question. So 0 and a number, this number is always b if we have a 0 in the left side. So now here we can consider b as 5. So we have m of the slope is equal to 1 over 4. And b is equal to 5. We just replace them inside this function. So f of x is equal to 1 over 4x plus 5. That gives us the answer, letter A. What happens if this point is not a 0 and a number? If it's, for example, 1 and 3, for example, here 1, not 0, so we cannot consider this as b. But in that case, we have to replace this x here by 1 and this f of x by 3 and get the value of b, which differentiates A, B, C, and D. And that's something else we can study later in some other questions. Question number 4. The function f is defined by this. This is a square root function. F of x is equal to 5 plus the square root of x. What is the value of f of 144? If you have a look here, f of x is replaced by f of 144, which means that x here can be taken away, and we can put 144 instead of any x we have. So we can do that in both of the two sides. So f of x can be replaced by f of 144, and this is the requirement, is equal to 5 plus the square root of 144. And we know that square root of 144 is equal to 12. So we have 5 plus 12, which gives the answer of 17. If you are not sure about the answer, about this number, I mean, you can use the calculator if you have bigger numbers. So the square root of 144 now is 12, and we add them to the 5, which is given in the beginning of the equation. Oh, the 17 is the answer. Number 5, this is a linear equation, 7x minus 4y is equal to negative 84. For the given equation, which table gives the 3 values of x and their corresponding values of y. So we can check all of these by checking one of the points. Maybe the 1 point can differentiate these answers. And we can just replace x, for example, by 0. And if the answer is 21, we think about letter A and so on. So replacing is okay. You can replace, for example, x by 0 and y by 21, and think about letter A. So 7 times something minus 4 times something else equals to negative 84. These spaces can be filled with the numbers that we need to check. So here, if we check letter A, we can replace x by 0. This is x in the beginning, and y by 21. And solve this part, answer this part. If the answer is negative 84, so this is a potential answer. 7 times 0 is equal to 0, minus 8. 4 times 21 is equal to 84, and this is equal to the right side. So this point right here is okay. So we can say that this may be one of the answers. You can also check the second one, 4 and 28 in the same option, letter A. So we can say 7 times something minus 4 times something else should be equal to negative 84. And we replace now x by 4 and y by 28. You can just use the calculator for this part because maybe it takes some time to calculate manually. So you can use the calculator and write 7 times 4. Of course, 7 times 4 is equal to 28, but you can only write this like here, and then minus 4 times into 28. And the answer is negative 84, which gives us the same answer at the right side, which means that this is okay. Mostly this is the correct one. And we can finally check 8 and 35. So 7 times 8 minus 4 times 35. And we see if it's negative 84 or not. So here we can just, and the calculator can change these numbers. Instead of 28, we can replace it by 35. And this 4 right here can be replaced by 8. And the answer is still negative 84, which means this is also okay. So the answer is letter A. If you want to use the other tool that can help you, Desmos is one of these tools. If you want to check Desmos, you can write this as a linear equation on Desmos. 7x minus 4y is equal to negative 84. We can write it here, 7x minus 4y is equal to negative 84. That's our line. 7x minus 4y is equal to negative 84. And then we can check the points. The points are like 0 and 21. You can just write 0 and 21, or you can go through the graph itself. This point right here, if you just put the point here, because this is the point 0, so go up to reach the graph 0 and 21, which is okay. This is given here, 0 and 21. 4 and 28, you can just write it here like this. Open the parentheses, 4, 28. And then you can go, 4 and 28, not 8 and 28. This is 4. 4 and 28 is a point on the line. So if it's on the line, you are okay. Now the last one, 8 and 35. You can also check 8 and 35 like this. Don't forget to write the comma. And 8 and 35 is also on the line. So the 3 points are given on the line, which means this is a solution to this inequality, to this equation. So it cannot happen to get two answers correct. Then question number 6, a geologist estimates that the volume of a boulder is greater than 12.7 cubic feet, but less than 15.7 cubic feet, which means the answer is between these two values. But the geologist also estimates that the boulder weighs, so now we are talking about the weight, 160 pounds per cubic feet of volume, which means 160 feet for each cubic feet. And the cubic feet are given here. And the word each here means, or the word pair means you have to multiply. So for example, if you have this equation right here, y is equal to mx plus b, you know that this m is associated always with the word pair or each, or we can say rate or change or increase or decrease or slope, of course. So we see this number should be multiplied always by x. So we can say the weight of 160 should be multiplied once by 12.7 and once by 15.7. So we need to write it like this: 160 multiplied by 12.7 first, and then 160 multiplied by 15.7, and x is something between them, because x is greater than this and less than this. X is greater than 12.7, but 12.7 what? Cubic feet, but we need to multiply it by 160 because per cubic foot of the volume. So we have to multiply 160 by both, and then x is something between them, which means letter C is our answer. We move now to question number 7. If 46 is equal to 16 plus 2 into x minus 8, what is the value of 2 times x minus 8? So when we have a number like, or an equation like this, 3 is equal to 2, for example, plus x. If you want to get x, we just move the 2 to the other side. What if this x is replaced by something? So we can have another equation like 46 is equal to 16 plus 2x. What if we want to get the value of 2x? We just move the 16 and no need to divide by 2. What if this 2x changed to be 2x minus 8 and we only want this value? So we just move the 16 and we get this as it is. So no need to get the value of x here. No need to get the value of x if we have the block which is required is already given inside the equation. I mean, this 2 times x minus 8 is the thing that is already required here. So no need to get the value of x. We just move the 16 to the other side. And we have 2 into x minus 8 is equal to 46 minus 16. And if we simplify this one, we get 2 times x minus 8 is equal to 30. How can we continue? We do not continue. We just stop here because we need to get 2 times x minus 8. That's already here. So the answer is equal to 30, and that saves too much time. Instead of using the calculator to get the value of x and then substitute, it takes some more time. And then number 8. We have a system of 2 equations here, and which graph represents the given system of equations? As you can see, we have 4 graphs. And we can consider which one. If we look at the first equation, for example, that's a quadratic one. Quadratic equation, but x squared here is a positive value, which means if we don't have a negative number, a negative value with x squared, a negative coefficient, so the graph is always looking up like this, opens upward. So here we can eliminate letter D. This is looking downward, as you can see, so cannot consider D as an answer. And then we look at the second thing in the same equation. 1.7 is the shifting of y is equal to x squared, which is this graph, 1.7 units up. So here we just move it up like this. So it's moved up, not on the vertex, on the origin, it moves up a little bit. So here we can consider letter A. It just moved up, as you can see. This shift upward makes the 1.7 appear to be moved up. Here also we move up, so maybe A or B, but this is moved down instead of the origin. It moves down here, which is not our answer. So we can look at these as, because both of them are moving upward. Instead of getting the graph like this, it moves upward to get this one. The same here. And this is called the vertical shift or vertical translation. So we have only A or B. Now the part that differentiates A and B is the second one. Here y is equal to 1.7 minus x. If we consider the function y is equal to mx plus b, the number that comes beside x is called the slope. And if the slope is negative, the graph should be like this, a backslash. Backslash makes the slope negative. And here the slope is already negative. The number that comes beside x is -1, or the coefficient of x is -1, which makes the graph something like this. The line, because this is already a linear function, the line must move this way. Here we have this line. Yeah, this line right here is negative, has a negative slope, but this one has a positive slope, so we cannot consider this. So our answer is letter A. You can also use Desmos to graph these, but in this case, it takes some time if you cannot recognize the graphs. It takes some time to graph these, and then you can recognize the correct answer from Desmos. But here in this question, it's better to understand how to differentiate them using your foundation information, you know, about the shifting, about the slope of negative x here, so you can get the answer easily. Question number 9, in triangle ABC, the measure of angle A is 47, the measure of angle B is 90, and in the geometry question, you need to read the whole question first before graphing anything, before drawing anything. Angle B, the measure of angle B is 90 degrees, and the measure of angle C is k over 2 degrees. What is the value of k? So you can think about it. Triangle like this. We make sure that it's a right triangle, because here we have B is 90, so you can write B here. And A is 47, you can write 47 in A. And then how can we get C? Because C is k over 2. This is an equation here. This is an equation. So we can say C is means equal to k over 2. But we can get C first because this equation has two values, two variables, or two constants, if we consider C and k, two unknowns. So if we want to get the value of k, the question says find the value of k, we need to get the value of C. So C here is the third angle. And you know that the triangle has a total measure of 180 degrees. And whenever you have a 90 degree, it's not good to say 180 minus 47 plus something. 180 minus 47 plus 90, and you get the answer, which is equal to 43. But it's better to say 90 minus, it's better and easier and quicker to say, if you want to get the angle C, you just say 90 minus 47. Because if you know that this is 90 degree, the measure of B is 90 degree, these together make another 90 degrees. Because the total is 180, one of them is 90, so both of these have a total of 90, together have a total of 90 also. So no need to mention 180 here, just say, if you want to get angle C, you say 90 minus 47, which gives us 43. But this is not the answer. 43 is C, so replace C by 43, and then write k over 2. Now, if we want to get k, just put 1 down here and cross multiply. K times 1 is k, and 43 times 2 is equal to 86, which is our answer, letter C. The value of k is equal to 86. Question number 10, it's about the percentage. A clothing store buys shirts at a wholesale price of $5 each and resells them at a retail price that is 270% of the whole price. So 270%, not increased, not decreased, just the number of means multiplied. So we have a wholesale price and we have a retail price. And then at the end of the season, any remaining shirts are marked at a discount price that is 70% off the retail price. What is the discounted price of each remaining shirt? So we are talking about the remaining here. So we have three things to consider: the whole price, and we have the retail price, and at the end we have the, let's say, remaining or the discounted price, discounted. So we consider three things. The whole price is equal to 5. wholesale price is equal to $5. How can we get the retail? Because the question says retail price retail price is means equal to 170% of means multiplied by the wholesale price, which is 5. That's the retail price. But the remaining are marked at a discount. So be careful about a discount. Discount 70% off means 1 minus 70% of the retail price. So whenever you say the discounted price, discount price means we pay only 1 minus the percentage of the discount, because this is the payment. So we pay, for example, if you have a TV with costs $1,000 and you have a discount of, let's say, 15%, so we cannot pay 1,000. You cannot pay also the discount. You will pay 1 minus the 15% of the 1,000. So be careful about the multiplication here. So 1 minus 70% of the retail price, which can be obtained here. So we can write the discounted price as 1 minus 70% times this number, 270% of, or multiplied by 5, and that's the answer. We can put this on the calculator and get the answer easily by just replacing these numbers. So we can open the parentheses and write 1 minus 70%, and that's the percentage here. Open another parenthesis because we multiply 270%, 270% times 5. You can just multiply this by 5 and you get the answer as 81/20, or you can just make SD to get the answer in decimal, 4.05. And that also makes sense because this number is a little bit less than $5 because of this discount. Then question number 11, we have a scatter plot, and this is always something called a line of best fit. The line that passes through the points is called line of best fit. Which of the following is closest to the slope of the line of best fit? How can we get the slope of this? We can think about a slope by using the formula, which makes sense here. The formula of the slope is equal to y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And this can be considered, we just consider 2 points here. For example, this point is about, let's say, 12.8 or maybe 12.7 and 0. And this point right here is 0 and 14 maybe. Yeah, you can use them. But I think it's okay to use Desmos in this case. If you put the points here and you get the graph. And from the graph, or from the equation of the graph, you can find the slope, because the graph will be written as, in this case, y equal, in this form, y is equal to mx plus b. So let's draw the graph. Just draw the points, 0 and 16 and 12.7 and 0. Let's make it on Desmos here. You just make a table, plus here and make a table. And then put the 2 points. 0 and 16, 0 and 14 is the one. The 0 and 14, 0 and go right, 14 is the one that is on the y-axis. And on the x-axis, we have about 12.7. It's approximate answer, of course, and 0. Now you can choose this line, as you can see here, the regression, add a regression, and make sure that it's a linear regression. And you can just look at this equation right here. Just click on this, you'll see it more clear. So negative, the number that comes beside x, or the coefficient of x, is always the slope. So the slope here is negative 1.1. If you consider rounding, you get the answer negative 1.1. So the slope here is negative 1.1, which is letter B. Of course, you can consider the direction of the line. The line is decreasing, which makes it negative. That allows you to eliminate C and D. And then think about these by using the formula, by using the rise over run. The rise here is 14 and the run is 12, but negative 14, of course, because it moves down. And then you can use the calculator. But at Desmos, in this case, I think it's much efficient. Question number 12. The expression 72y to the 5 minus 48y to the 4 is equivalent to ry to the 4 into 12y minus 8. R is the constant. What is the value of r? So we have 2 methods to solve this. Maybe we can write the expression like this. and think about factoring out something. We need to factor out something so that the remaining inside is 12y minus 8. How can we get this? Because this value identifies the value of r, y to the power 4. Of course, y to the power 4 is written out because y to the power 5 is y to the power 4 times y. If we just multiply here, you get y to the power 5. Multiply here, you get negative 8 or negative something multiplied by y to the power 4. So the problem is not with y to the power 4. The problem comes with the number. So something multiplied by 12 is equal to 72. Or something multiplied by negative 8 is negative 48. That's much easier, maybe. 6. If you think about 6, yeah, 6 times negative 8 is negative 48. Or 6 times 12 is equal to 72. So the answer is 6. So this number should be replaced by 6. So r is equal to 6. That's one of the methods that can be considered here. But we can also use another method by looking at the answer itself, the equivalent value here. This part can be changed to be something like this. I mean, r y to the 4th, 12y minus 8, we can distribute r y to the 4th times 12y, it will be 12r y to the 5th. If you just stop here and compare this with this one, 72 y to the 5th, it means that these values are equal because y to the 5th is the same as y to the 5th, and this should be equivalent. Equivalent means equal. So 12r is equal to 72. We can consider this, and we divide only by 12 to get r is equal to 6. You can also think about distributing the other side. ry to the 4th times negative 8, which means negative 8r y to the 4th power, and this is equal to negative 48 y to the 4th. Because these are equivalent, it means it makes this equal to this. You can forget about the negative and think about 8r equal to 48. You can divide by 8 in both of the sides. You get also r is equal to 6. So many ways get you the answer of 6. In question 13, we have a quadratic equation, and we are asked to get the best interpretation of something. So here, the equation gives the estimated stock price, y, in dollars. So y represents the stock price in dollars for a certain company, x days after a company went public, where x is between 0 and 20. Which statement is best interpretation of this? X and y is equal to 1 and 58. So here, x represents 1, and y gives 58. So if we want to get the interpretation correct, we need to consider x as equal to 1. So instead of saying x days, we say 1 day. Instead of x, as the question says, x is the number of days after the company went public, so we can say 1 day after the company went public. And then we get the y, and y is equal to 58, and y here is always the equation itself, or the final value of y that gives the stock price, y in dollars. So we can say that we have $58 as the stock price. So the stock price is $58 1 day after it went public. And you can, if you check in the options, you can find these pieces of information only given in letter A. 1 day after the company went public, the company's estimated stock price is $58. But here B, 58 days, of course, not correct. $58, yeah, every day means it should be a slope in the linear equation. That's not correct. And here the company's estimated stock price increased $1 every. So of course $1 is not correct because the number of dollars is y, which is 58. So the correct answer is letter A. Question number 14, the total mass in kilograms of R identical objects is T. Which expression presents the total mass in kilograms of 146 R of these objects? So here in this kind of questions, we need always to consider the proportion. And when do we use the proportion? We use the proportion whenever you can see the repeated numbers, the repeated expressions. I mean, the total mass is repeated here, total mass. And objects is given also here. So whenever you see them repeated, you consider that this repetition as a ratio or a proportion. And the proportion says that we can write it like this. The total mass in kilogram of our identical objects is T. So mass and then objects. These are the repeated words. The total mass of our objects is T. So we need to get what? The total mass of 146 R. So if we write 146 R in the objects, we need to get this value. We can consider it another letter like X, for example, and we can just cross multiply. X times R is Rx is equal to T times 146 R is equal to 146 TR. And we need to get the value of X alone, so we can divide by R in both of the sides. R cancels R in both of the sides, and X is equal to 146T, which gives us letter D. Question 15. Yeah, in question number 15, we need to consider something very important. If you have A over B is equal to C, and you want to get, for example, BC, what if you want to BC? BC means move the B here easily. Just move the B to be beside C. So BC is equal to A. Just move this and keep A alone. That's what happened here. When you have this, and we need 7x squared, and 7x squared came from this multiplied by this. So X just moved up here to be 42 is equal to 7x times X, which means 7x squared, and the other side is 42. So 7x squared is equal to 42, which is required here, letter C. Question number 16, we have a line, and this line comes from left to right decreasing, which means the slope is negative. And the question says line K is shown. This is line K. In the XY plane, line J not shown is perpendicular to line K. What is the slope of J? So if you want to get the slope of a perpendicular line, you have to get the slope of K first and then get the opposite reciprocal. So the slope of K here is the rise. You can use rise over run. The slope of K is equal to rise. Start from the point that is down, move up, rise. How many steps we move? From -5 to 0, it's 5. Over, we move left. How many steps left? 6 steps, but we need to write -6 because we are moving left. Whenever you move left, this is a negative number. 5 over -6. But the slope of K, the slope of J, I mean, is the opposite reciprocal of this because the word perpendicular. So we write, instead of 5 over 6, we write 6 over 5. And instead of the negative sign, we keep it positive because this negative 5 over -6 is the same as -5 over 6. But when we change it, we get the reciprocal of 6 over 5 and change the sign to be positive. That's our answer. So 6 over 5 is okay. You can also consider 1.2 if you want to write it as decimal, and both are okay. Question number 17, the function f is defined by this. F of x is equal to -9x plus 9. What is the y-coordinate of the y-intercept? So whenever you see this, y is equal to mx plus b. B is the y-intercept. So this is written the same way. Y is equal to mx plus b. So b here is 9. So the y-intercept is always 0 and 9 in this question. But the question, we cannot write this. The question says, what is the y-coordinate of the y-intercept? Y-coordinate, I mean this number only. This is x-coordinate, and this is y-coordinate of the y-intercept. So the answer is 9. And then comes question number 18. The equation, as you can see, gives the corresponding temperature, H in degrees Fahrenheit. So the Fahrenheit is H of any substance that has a temperature of V kelvins. So V is the Kelvin degrees of the temperature, where V is greater than 0. If a substance has a temperature of 467.33 degrees Fahrenheit, which means we replace H with this number, because H is the Fahrenheit degree. So we can replace H with this number and write it here. So 467.33 is equal to 9V, because we need V now. The Kelvin V is required here. What is the corresponding temperature? in Kelvin. So V minus 273.15, all of that is divided by 5 and then plus 12. Because this equation is a little bit harder to use to answer manually, so you have to use the calculator with shift solving. How can we use shift solve? We write this number 467.33 and write equal sign like this, alpha, with this button right here, and make a fraction bar, write 9, and instead of this V, we write X, and X can be written on the calculator with alpha, closing parentheses, minus 273.15 over 5 and go right and write plus 12. And then we'll use shift calc equals because this is an equation and the answer is 526.1. We can just make it this way, stop at 1 because we need to write 5. We have only 5 spaces allowed. So 526.1 is our answer. Question number 19, a circle in the XY plane has its center at 16 and 17 and has a radius of 7k, which equation represents this circle. So what you need to remember or to recall the equation of the circle, something like this, x minus h squared y minus k all squared is equal to r squared. So h and k are the numbers in the center in the same order. This is h, this is k. So we can replace them here. X minus 16 squared plus y minus k, and k is 17. All squared is equal to r squared. And r here is the radius, and the radius is 7k. So we need to write 7k like this and square them both. So we have x minus 6 all squared plus y minus 17 all squared is equal to, whenever you multiply these by this by itself, the 7 is getting squared to be 49, and k is also squared to be k squared, which is identical to letter B, as you can see here. Question number 20. We have a right triangle. It says in the right triangle shown, RS is the square root of 105. So this is RS here. This is the leg square root of 105. What is the value of sine r? And this is r. And of course, we know that the sine of any angle is equal to opposite over hypotenuse. Remember this, SOH, CAH, and then TOA. Sine is equal to opposite over hypotenuse. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, and tan is equal to opposite over adjacent. So now we're talking about the sine opposite of r, and opposite of r is this side, which is TS, but we don't have this. And the hypotenuse is 53. So we need to remember to get the value of TS, we divide it by 53. Well, how can we get the RS? Now we can use the Pythagorean theorem because we have two sides given. Whenever you need to get a side of a leg, I mean the length of a leg, not a hypotenuse, you need to subtract. To subtract what? So get TS by making the square root of this number squared minus this number squared. So 53 squared minus the square root of 105 all squared. That's how to write it. So the square already cancels this number. So we have the square root of 53 squared minus 105 only. That can be done on the calculator. Get the square root of 53 squared minus 105. And you get 52. So 52 is equal to 2s. TS is 52. You can just put it here. And now we get the sine of r by writing the opposite, 52, over the hypotenuse of 53. So this is the opposite of the angle r. 52 over 53 is our answer. You can also consider writing the decimal by using the calculator. And then we go to question 21. Parallelogram ABCD is similar to parallelogram PQRS. the length of each side of parallelogram PQRS, the second one, is 2 times the length of the corresponding parallelogram of the first one. The area of parallelogram, the first, is 5 square centimeters. What is the area of the second one? So we consider ABCD at the first and PQRS at the second. And we have some kinds of, let's say, formulas we can use always in these kinds of questions when we compare the areas and the side length. We have to think about this. Area 1 over area 2 is always 2 side length 1 over side length 2, but squared. Remember, this formula can be used in the areas. And we also have these formulas because we consider both all of these. If you are talking about the perimeter, for example, perimeter 1 over perimeter 2, remember this also can be used in some questions. Side length 1 over side length 2 only without writing the square. But we have the volume also, volume 1 over volume 2, and the 3D shapes equals to S1 over S2 all to the power of 3. So remember these three relationships here can be also considered inside the circle. So these are in the, let's say, this one is area of 2D shape. This is the perimeter of any polygon. This is the volume of any 3D figure. But if you consider that circles, we have area 1 over area 2 is equal to radius 1 over radius 2 all squared. And the perimeter in the circle is called the circumference. Circumference 1 over circumference 2 is equal to the radius 1 over radius 2 only without writing the square here. And then we got the volume of the sphere. Volume 1 over volume 2 is equal to the radius 1 over radius 2 all to the power of 3. So remember these 6 formulas and apply whenever you have one of them. So here we use the first one because we are talking about only the area. So area 1 over area 2 is equal to side length 1 over side length 2 all to the power of 2. But the very important thing here is to consider which one, or to be aware to write which one up and which one down. So we consider this first. So area 1 is corresponding to this one. So area of ABCD, we have it already. The area of ABCD is 5. So we replace this number by 5. Over area 2, we don't have it because the area 2 is required here. So you can name area 2 or you can write X or something. And here we consider the relationship between S1 and S2. The second one, the length of the side length, the side length of the second one is 2 times the corresponding of the first one, which means the second one here is equal to 2 times the first one here. So we just write 1 over 2. 1 for the first, 2 for the second, because the second, look, the length of each side of the parallelogram PQRS, which is the second, is 2 times the corresponding of ABCD, which is the first. So we just write 1 over 2 inside this parentheses and then get the value of A. You can write 5 over A2 is equal to 1 squared is 1 and 2 squared is equal to 4. We just cross multiply. A2 times 1 is A2. 5 times 4 is equal to 20, and then the area is equal to 20. That's the answer of this question. Number 22, we have this function right here. R of t is equal to 55t minus 2t squared. The function R is defined by the given equation. This is a function R. The function S is another one, which is RT plus 1. It means that this equation is moved up a little bit, or one step up, which expression represents the maximum value of S of t. In this kind of questions, it's recommended to use Desmos to save too much time. And we just write this as f of x instead of r of t, and this as g of x. So we have two functions. Consider f of x and g of x to be easier to recognize on Desmos. So f of x is equal to 55x minus 2x squared. F of x, like this, is equal to 55x minus 2x squared, and that's the square. This is our first one. The second one is g of x is equal to f of x plus 1. We can write it down here because f of x is already defined here. So we can easily get g of x as a relationship with f of x. G of x is equal to f of x plus 1. F of x like this. Then write plus 1 outside here. And then we get this. The maximum of this blue line, blue curve at this point right here. If you just click on this, you see some numbers. And this is the value of x, and this is the value of y. We need to consider this number. So here is our number. Let's take this number and focus on this. And the options are one of these. So we need to check every one of them to get the same answer at this number, 300. And because the question says the value of the maximum. The maximum value is always y, not x. So here we get the y value, 379.125. Let's check the first one here, which is 1 plus the parentheses of 55 over 2 all to the power of 2. Let's check them here, whether they give the answer or not. 1 plus pair of parentheses like this, and we go inside and write the fraction of 55 over 2. 55 over 2 squared. So here out we write squared, and inside we write 55 over 2, and read the answer like this number, 757.25. It's not the same as this one, so letter A is not correct. So let's change this and write 2 out here and 4 down instead of this 2. So we can replace this 2 by 4, and we write 2 outside here, and you get the same answer. As you can see, this number is exactly the same as this one, which makes it correct answer. So letter B is the correct one. And that's the easiest way to solve this kind of questions. And now we start answering the module 2 of this exam, October 24. Question number 1 says, as part of a science experiment on evaporation, Ella measured the height of water in a glass over a period of time. The function f of x is equal to 39 minus 0.18x. This is a linear equation, gives the estimated height in centimeters. F of x here means the height of the water in the glass x days after the start of the experiment. So x is the number of days, and f of x is the height in centimeters. Which of the following is the best interpretation of 39? 39 here is B, because f of x could be written as mx plus b. So whenever the number m, which is the coefficient of x here, like negative 0.18, that's the slope. And the number that's a constant is b, which is the y-intercept. And the b here is the y-intercept, or you can also talk about this as the initial value, starting, beginning. Let's say these are the words that can be used for the b here. So one of the words is 39, and this should be initial or the start. If you look at the options here, you can find letter A, the estimated height in centimeters of the water at the start. That's the answer, because the start here means always the y-intercept. So letter A is the answer of this question, not the end, not the change, not the number of days, because we are focusing on the 39, and 39 is always taking the same measuring unit as f. So f of x here is in centimeters, so 39 centimeters also. And that's question number 1. Question number 2, we have a table, and we have linear functions, as you can see in the options. The roofs of the buildings of a public garden are designed to allow water to drain into the garden. The table shows the relationship between the area x in square feet of a roof and the amount of water f of x in gallons drained from the roof into the garden over a certain period of time. Which equation could define f? How can we get f here? The equation is written always as y is equal to mx plus b, like this. But mx plus 0, because b here is equal to 0. We don't have b for all of the options. So we can think about the discriminant, which is here the slope. How can we get the slope? The slope is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. We can just think about y2 like this one, and this is y1. We subtract them. x2 minus x1 like this one. That's an easy method to use. So let's do it on the Desmos, or maybe on the calculator, the regular calculator. That's okay. Use this one or that one. Make a fraction bar and write, or you can make something like this over this. We can make a fraction bar and get the slope by subtracting 6804 minus 4536. And be careful about the order. If we start from down to up, start always from down to up. 3780 minus 2520. And you get the answer as 1.8. So the slope is 1.8, which is mentioned here in letter B. That's the easy method to use. Of course, it's not recommended to use manual method for this question. Question number 3. In 2010, a skating team has a total of 35 skaters, each classified as either advanced or intermediate. From 2010 to 2020, the number of advanced skaters, the advanced, is on the team increased by approximately 53%. So whenever you see the word increased by followed by a percentage, this is written like this: 1 plus 53%, which means 1.53. That's how to write it. So what it is, this is the advanced one. It's increased by 1.53 of the advanced, which was originally mentioned as A. As you can see here, advanced, and this other one is classified in advanced or intermediate. So advanced is A and B is intermediate. As the question mentioned here, so we can say A represents the number of advanced skaters and B the number of intermediates. So we can have this number as part of our equation. And then and the number of intermediate skaters on the team increased by approximately 44%, which means 1 plus 44% of B. That gives us 1.44B. So here it should be written A, should be written here B, and that's the answer. That's the part of number 2. And then the question says the total. Total means we have to add these together. So 1.53A plus 1.44B should be on the team increased by approximately 49%. So what is 49% of what? Of the total. Where is the total? The total here is 35. So 1.49%, which means 1.49 multiplied by the original number of the total, which is 35. Here you can find the answer. If you look carefully at the options here, you can find your answer in letter C. And be careful about the order of the numbers. 1.53 is with A, not with B, like letter D, for example. And then we go to question number 4. B minus 72 is equal to x over y, and we need to get x. How did we know? We look at the options here. We find x alone. The given equation relates the positive numbers b, x, and y. Which equation correctly expresses x in terms of b and y? So we need to get x alone. Remember always, when you have a fraction like this, x over y is equal to b, for example, just move the y like here, multiply it. So x is equal to by. And that's happening here also. We have b minus 72 is equal to x over y. If we want to get x alone, we get rid of this y, just move it up here, but multiply it by this. So y multiplied by the quantity of b minus 72 is the value of x. Now we can just distribute because they are already distributed. Y times b is by. And then minus y times 72 is negative 72y, and then this is the value of x. So x is equal to by minus 72y, which is letter D. Question number 5. Y is equal to 2 over 7x plus 3. You need to recall the function f of x is equal to mx plus b. This is m, and that's b. So when one of the two equations in the system of linear equations is given, one of them is given, and we need to get the other one, the system has infinitely many solutions, which means they are exactly the same equation. So infinitely many solutions means this is the first line, and what is the second line? Itself, which means that they are exactly the same. If the second equation of the system is this, where m and b are constants. What's the value of b? Of course, the value of b is the same as the value of 3. And the value of m is the same as the value of 2 over 7. So we can just compare because they have infinitely many solutions. That means they are the same equation. They are one equation. So b is the same as 3, so just choose 3, letter B. Here we have another system, and this system is a linear system. Y is equal to 6x plus 16, and the negative 7x minus y is equal to 36. What is the solution to this? We can use Desmos easily. We can write the system like two equations and get the answer from x and y like this. The first equation is y is equal to 6x plus 16. Second equation is negative 7x minus y is equal to 36. And look at the intersection. Here it is. The answer is negative 4 and 8. Negative 4 and negative 8, which is letter A. Very simple and very easy. You can also use the calculator by using mod 5 2. If you like, mod 5 1, sorry, mod 5 1, and write the numbers as A, B, and C. Mod 5 1, and but in this case, you have to move the 6x to the other side and make it negative 6x too, so we can write it like this because we need to write it in the standard form. Negative 6 for the A, B is 1, coefficient of y, and then 16 is the result. Go to the next equation, we write negative 7, negative 1, and then 36. And you get the answer as negative 4 for x and negative 8 for y. You get the same answer. Of course, for those who start working in the systems, it's recommended to solve them using the elimination method, which helps them practice more and more in this kind of questions. But as long as you proceed in the levels of studying math, you need to consider the calculator and also Desmos as a very efficient tool. In question 7, as we can see here, we have two histograms, and the first one is team A and second is team B. The histogram summarizes the distributions of scores for team A and team B, which statement best compares the standard deviation of scores for those teams. If you want to compare the standard deviation, which is the only concept in SAT, because standard deviation is something can be calculated, but we don't need to calculate standard deviation never in the SAT. We only just compare. This is the only skill in the SAT for that when it comes to the standard deviation. So how can we know? How can we differentiate? The standard deviation is how far the values from the mean. The mean here is something between. If you look at the graph here, you can see they are symmetrical around a point like this. So it's about maybe 32 or 33 or 32.5, and the numbers are not that spread around this number. But here in the second one, if the mean is something here, they are more spread away. So the more they are spread around the number, the more the greater the standard deviation. So of course, B is greater standard deviation, as you can see. But here they are beside each other. They are very close. All the values are very close to the mean, which means this is smaller than this one. So here we can choose letter A. The standard deviation of scores from team A is less than the standard deviation of scores in team B. So the answer is A. Question number 2, we have a quadratic equation. What is the sum of the solutions? If you have a quadratic equation written in the standard form like this, which is ax squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0, this is called the standard equation of the quadratic function. Whenever you want to get the sum of the solutions, sum of solutions has a formula, a very easy formula. Negative b over a. Negative b over a. So here we can apply that. So sum is equal to negative b means negative 5 over a, and a is 1 already. So negative 5 means positive 5 over a, which means 5. That's the sum of the equation and the sum of the solutions. Number 9, we have an exponential function graphed here, as you can see. The graph of y is equal to f of x is shown, where f of x is equal to a b to the x plus c. A, B, and C are constants. For how many values of x does f of x is equal to 0? Be careful because this is an equation of a line. And which line is this? The x-axis itself. The x-axis has an equation, and the equation of the x-axis is y is equal to 0, or f of x is equal to 0. So where did, or how many points at which this line or this curve intersect this line here? They did not intersect. They will never intersect because this graph, which is the quadratic, the exponential function, has no maximum. And also it has something called the horizontal asymptote. Horizontal asymptote is something like the ceiling of the flat. We cannot exceed that. We cannot move upper to this line. The line moves beside the graph and that will never touch. So here we have a ceiling and we cannot cross it to reach this line here. So we have no points of intersection between the x-axis, which is this equation, and our exponential graph. So we have 0 points of intersection. Question number 10, to study fluctuations in leaf water potential, samples of wood were taken from 22 trees and cut in the shape of a cube. The length of the edge of one of these cubes is 3. This is 3 because it's not 3,000. This is just a point. So 3 centimeters. This cube has a density of 0.250 grams per cubic centimeters. What is the mass of the cube in grams? So do we have a formula for the mass and the density? Yes. The formula says density is equal to mass over volume. But how can we do that? We can use the physics strategy to get this formula. If you look at the density here, the density is written in grams per cubic centimeters. Grams means the mass. Cubic centimeters always refer to the volume. So mass over volume. If you forgot the formula, you can just recall it by using these units mentioned here. So the density is already given, 0.250. M, we don't know M because we need to get the mass. And we write M instead, and then the V. V is the volume. What is the volume of this figure, this cube? The volume of the cube is always the side length to the power of 3, to the third power. So the side length already is given here. The length of the edge or the side, it's the same meaning, is equal to 3. So we can replace this S by 3. Let's make it 3, and then to the power of 3. Of course, 3 power 3 means 27. And then we can write it again, 0.250 is equal to M over 27. We just cross multiply. M times 1 is M. This is the mass. 27 times 0.250 is our answer. 27 times 0.25 or 250. You get the answer as 27 over 4, or you can make it in decimal like 6.75. That's our answer. So the mass is 6.75. Question number 11. The function f is a quadratic function where f of negative 20 is equal to 0. F of negative 4 is equal to 0 also. So these are called what? The x-intercepts. The x-intercepts is where y is equal to 0. The result, the outcome, the output is equal to 0. So the input is called the x-intercepts. The graph of y is equal to 4 of x in the xy plane has a vertex of r and negative 64. What are the value of r? So this is the vertex. And there is something very, very important here and very easy to apply. Whenever you have a graph of a function, which is a quadratic function, let's make it like this, and it intersects the x-axis at 2 points. So this is, for example, our x-axis. This point is negative 20 because y is equal to 0. This point is negative 20 and 0. So negative 20 here. And this point is negative 4. And the vertex is something, we need to get the value of r. The vertex is always here. And h, the vertex is h and k. H lies between these 2 points in the middle. I mean, if you pass a line here through the graph, this line of symmetry is exactly in the equidistant from the 2 points. I mean, if you want to get h, use the average or the mean formula. The mean is equal to the total over the number. So the mean or h here is equal to, you add these two values and divide them by 2 to get the number that comes exactly in the middle on the x-axis, because h here refers to the x value of the vertex. But it's mentioned as r, whatever that letter is, so we can use r instead of h here. We can write it as r, which is the value, the x in the vertex, negative 20 plus negative 4 over 2. Of course, negative 20 plus negative 4 is negative 24. And when you divide negative 24 by 2, you get negative 12. So the answer is negative 12. That's the value of r. And then question number 12. The function f gives the product of a number x and a number that is 91 more than x. Which equation defined f? So f gives, which means equal. The product means something multiplied by something, of a number x, here is a number x, and a number that is 91 more than x. So x plus 91. Number is more than x means add 91 to the x. Now we can find the answer here, yeah, but we have no parentheses mentioned, so we need to distribute. So f of x, for example, is equal to x times x, which is x squared, plus x times 91, which is 91x. So our answer is letter C. And now question number 13 has a quadratic equation, but we have a constant C. In the given equation, C is a constant. The equation has exactly one solution. What is the value of C? Many ways to answer this question. One of them is using the discriminant, which says that when we have one solution, we can use b squared minus 4ac equal to 0. That's the equation that we can use. And b is 20, so 20 squared minus 4a, and a is negative 2. Then c, and c is already written as c also, is equal to 0. You can use the calculator to find the value of c. 20 squared is 400. You can just write 400 minus 4 multiplied by negative 2. And then multiplied by a letter like c, but we can use x instead of c, and then write equals 0. Then use shift calc to get the value of c, which is negative 50. So negative 50 is the answer, letter B. We use Desmos also as another tool that can help in this kind of questions, and you can judge which one is easier for you. So we can write the equation, but write this part only because we need to get the graph. So we can write negative 2 x squared, and that's the square sign, and then plus 20 x plus c. That's the graph. And then we can write equal sign, just press enter. And the c is something written as 1 here, but we can choose a number of c. The value is, the question asks about the value of c, and the c varies between 0 and negative 68. So we can just try to make the slider a little bit wider, so we can start from negative 80, for example. That's something optional, and then positive 10, because we can include all of these. So let's move the value of c and look at what happens in the graph. When the graph touches the x-axis in 1 point, this is only 2 points. This is 2 points now. We need to move until this vertex comes here. So just move the point and then stop here. Look at what happens, only 1 point. 5 and 0 is the value of x and y, but we need to get the c. C is here, negative 50. So you just move the point c, move the slider to get the value of c that makes the point only 1 point on the x-axis, or the y value of it is equal to 0. That happens in only one case, when the value of c is negative 50. Question number 14. We have a system of equations. One of them is quadratic and the other is a linear one. And we have a as a constant in the given system of equations. A is a constant. The graphs of the equations in the given system intersect also at 1 point. What is the value of x? So be careful. We need the value of x, not the value of a. So here we can also use the Desmos. We can also use the other method, which is substitution. You can just put this instead of y. But this takes some time, and you can reorganize or rewrite the equation in the standard form, ax squared plus bx plus c, and use the same method. B squared minus 4ac is equal to 0, and then you can get the value of a. But here, Desmos is much time saver. Just write the two equations like this. Y is equal to 2x squared minus 15x, and then plus 23. And the other one is y is equal to x plus a. And a has a slider, but we don't know the value of it. We don't need the value of a, but we check to get them intersect at only one point. Look at the graph here. We can see that they are intersecting in 2 points. Here, this is a point and this is another one. We need to move the a so that they intersect at exactly 1 point. Look at this. Yes, that's it. So just put your mouse here and you find that the point is, it has x and y, 4 and negative 5. We need to focus on the 4 because 4 is the value of x. So x here is equal to 4 because the question says find x. But I know that a is negative 9, but this is not our concern. So be careful not to choose negative 9. The value of x is equal to 4, and that's a very easy method to use. Then we go to question number 15. The positive number is a is 2,352% of the sum of the positive numbers b and c. And b is 84% of c. What percent of b is a? This is something we need to remember how to translate this. So we can also use the Desmos here, but write the many equations. One of them is a is this amount or this percentage of the positive numbers b and c together as a sum. So we can write it like this. We can make the square brackets 2 times and write the sign in between them, which comes here. You can see the sign tends to b, and we write here the first equation. A is, which makes a here, and is means go to the other side of the equation and write 2,352%. How to write the percentage? It's not given in here in the keyboard. You can use the keyboard on your computer, or you can use just write percent, P-E-R-C-A-N-T. Once you finish, you find the percentage of. It's written for you, so don't worry. Just write the percentage correctly. Of what? Of the sum of B and C. Sum means something plus something. Just open parentheses and write B plus C. This is the meaning of the sum. Then we go to the first part, and we have another thing. B is 84% of C. So we write B here after the comma. Be careful to write the comma. B is means go to the other one and write the other side of the equation. 84%, 84% like this, percent, and it's written like this for you, of C. That's it. But here we don't know the value of A, B, or C. The question gives you, or the solutions are zeros, as you can see, so we cannot get a relationship between them. So we can consider this as our main question. What percent? What means X? Percent means over 100. Of means multiply by. B is means equal, and then A. This is how to translate. We need to get X now because the word what is the X value. We need to get the value of X only. So we need to get rid of all of that. This is a fraction because B is up and 100 is down. So if you want to get rid of them, just move them to the other side and write A times 100 over B. That's it. So we need to get the value of X, which is A times 100 over B. But if you write them here the same way, you will get undefined because A, B, and C are all zeros, as you can see. So the best method here, because B and A are our concern, C is whatever the number is. So just replace C, and this is a very important tactic. Replace C by any number from your mind, other than 0, of course. Choose any other number like 10, 5, 1, anything. Just replace this, choose 7 for C. Replace this C by 7, for example, and then let's make it wider, and then this C also should be the same number, 7. Then we write this value, a times 100 over b, which is the value of x. We need to get a times 100 over b. Write a, open the parentheses, and write 100 over b. And you get this number, 5,152, which is letter A. So why did we choose 7? Choose any number, but choose the number twice. This is C, and this is also C. So whenever you choose the number like, another number like, for example, 200, whatever, and then this, oh, sorry, we need to write it again. This again, for you, in order to see it one more time, this is how to write it. This is the sign between them, and the first one says A is 352%, like this, of the sum of A of B and C. So you just write B and C like any number, like 200, for example, and then go to the second equation, write comma, and then the B is 84, so write B here, and come here and write another comma, and write the 84% of C. 84% of C, and C we just make a number, a hypothesis number of 200. And then we need to get what? A times 100 over B. A into a fraction of 100 over B, and you still get the same number. Whatever the number you choose instead of C, you get the same number as the value of X. So the answer is either A. Question number 16. The function f and functions f and g are defined by the given equations. X is greater than 0. Which of the following equations displays the constant or the coefficient, the minimum value of the function? So minimum value appears always on the graph, but whenever you have x is greater than, it should not be minimum, because whenever it should be greater than or equal to have a minimum, but whatever, you have to graph. If you graph it on Desmos, it's okay, it's easy to get the answer. And I will show you now how to write them. F of x is equal to 18, parentheses, write 1.4, and go out and write the exponent. Here is our exponent. And be careful to write the parentheses on the exponent, because we have something as an expression, not only a letter, x plus 5. That's our equation. Then go to the next one, g of x is equal to 18, parentheses, 1.16, 1.4, and then the exponent should also contain an expression inside the pair of parentheses, x plus 3, and then we have two equations, as you can see. And then we have to mention the third inequality, which is x is greater than 0. You have to draw it also. X is greater than 0, and you see this. Let's make it wider to see, bigger to see, and here we are. The minimum area, this is our part we are focusing on. So this is the minimum, should be minimum. Of course, it's not a minimum because this is a dashed line, as you can see, but it's okay to just consider this. Do you have any of these numbers, 18 or 1.4, 1.4 or 1.16 in here in this point? Does this point have any number of these? No. So that's not okay for function g. Let's go to function f, which is the black one here, and see the point. If you just move the mouse, you find this number. This number is also not one of these, 18, 1.4, or 1.16. None of them is included here. And that's the best method to answer this question. So neither 1 nor 2. That's how to answer the question in a simple and easy method. Question number 17, let's evaluate this. 12x plus 28 over 4 minus s over 13 is equal to r into x minus 8. In the given equation, s and r are constants, and s is greater than 0. If the equation has infinitely many solutions, so be careful about the infinitely many solution in one linear equation. You have to consider this. If you have ax plus b is equal to cx plus d, we have three cases. Let's discuss them together. The case number one, if you have infinitely many solutions. And this happens when A is equal to C and B is equal to D. When the second case is what? To study for in general. Second case is no solution. And this happens when A is equal to C only. B is not equal to D. This is no solution. The third case is one solution. And this happens when A is not equal to C. So no need to check B and D. Just focus on the values of X and the coefficients of X. But in our case, the question says has infinitely many solutions. So we can erase everything here and only focus on the first case. Infinitely many solutions means A is equal to C and B is equal to D. But this is not organized the same way as here. We can do that. We can just divide 12 by 4 and 28 by 4. This can be divided easily. 12 divided by 4 is 3, so we can write 3x plus 28 divided by 4 is equal to 7 minus s over 13 is equal to r, and we distribute this one. R times x is rx minus r times 8 is 8r. So A here and C must be equal. Where is A? A is the coefficient of x. So coefficient of x means the number that's multiplied by x. Here we have 3. The coefficient of x is 3, and the coefficient of x here is r. So 3 here is equal to r. Then the numbers that are not coefficient of x, I mean the constants, this is a constant in the left, this is the constant in the right. These are equal also. So 7 minus s over, that's s over 13 must be equal to negative 8r. And now we need to get the value of s. So we can write this and also on this list like this, square brackets, and then go in the middle between them and write this sign, and then write the equations like this, 3, and here write r. Then we go to that. Of course, now r is equal to 3. Then a comma, and write 7 minus s over 13, s over 13. Go to the second one, don't forget to write the comma, negative 8r. And then we get the value of s, and s here is 403, as you can see in this, in the side, in the left side. So the answer is 403. And then comes question number 18. And number 18 says the perimeter of an isosceles right triangle is 18 plus 18 square root 2. What is the length in inch of the hypotenuse of this triangle? So right isosceles or isosceles right triangle is something like this. Right triangle, but isosceles means this is equal to this one. The right isosceles has some features we need to remember to understand. Whenever this number is, this will be the same. For example, 7 here, this is also 7, but this is 7 square root 2. So let's consider this as x, and this also as x, and then this will be x square root 2. The total of them must be equal to this number. Why the total? Because the perimeter means the sum of all of these three numbers. So we can write x plus x plus x square root 2 equal to 18 plus 18 square root 2. But the question does not ask for x. It asks for the hypotenuse, which is x square root 2. So let's start with the Desmos, and then we go to the calculator, use the other method. We can we write this on Desmos? Yes, we can. We can consider the equation as you can see here to get the value of x on the graph itself. So x plus x plus x square root 2, that's the square root 2 here, square root 2, and then get outside and write, this should be also written as equal sign because we can see the graph here, 18 plus 18 square root 2. And we have a graph here. And why is it? We need what? We need the hypotenuse. The hypotenuse is x square root 2. So we can consider it as y. Y is equal to x square root 2 to get the value of this once we write it here. Because we need the intersection of the two lines. So we can say y is equal to x square root 2. Square root 2. and we look at the graphs of these. Here if we zoom in or just get home, you can see the intersection between the two lines is here. This is the intersection. And we need x square root 2, which is the value of y. So y here is 18. So we can choose 18 as our answer. If you don't prefer this method, you can use this on the regular calculator. Let's make it together. We start by writing x, and x can be written as alpha, this plus x again, plus one more time x, but this is multiplied by square root 2. Get outside here and write equal sign using this way, and then 18 plus 18 square root 2. Shift calc equals. But this answer is not what we are looking for. We are not looking for x. We are looking for the hypotenuse, which is x times square root 2. So we can write square root 2 times the answer, times answer, which is the number that disappeared now. And you can get the answer by clicking on equal sign, get 18 as your answer. Question number 19, a right triangular pyramid has exactly 6 edges. Each of these edges is 96 centimeters long. The word each here is very important because this shows us that these are equilateral triangles. If the surface area of the pyramid, the whole pyramid is k square root 3 square centimeters, what is the value of k? So this is the triangular pyramid. Let's see it here. This is something like a triangular pyramid. We have 4 faces. We have 6 edges, and the question says 1, if you want to count them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But if we are looking at the faces, we have 1 down here, the base one, and then we have 3 faces as lateral faces. And all of them are equal in the area because of this word each. Each of the edges is equal to the other one, which means all of them are equilateral triangles. So whenever we have the surface area, we can divide this number by 4 to get the area of one of the faces. So the one face, which is one triangle, one of the 4 triangles, has an area of k square root 3 over 4. The area of one triangle is k square root 3 over 4. But we know that the area of a triangle, we have another formula. I want you to consider this formula. This is much more helpful if you use it. The area of a triangle equals to half times A times B sine C. What is the meaning of this? Whenever you have a triangle, any triangle, if you have a triangle like this, and here we have 7, we have 8 here, and this is 10, for example. If you want to get, and you know the angle here, let's say this angle is 50 degrees. If you want to get the area of this triangle, just use this formula. Half multiplied by A by 10 sine the angle that comes between them, which is 50. And that's how to use the formula. And that's time saver. So use this formula if you want to consider the area of a triangle. So one of the triangles has an area of this, which is the same as this formula if it's applied. So let's try to draw a triangle. This is one of the equilateral triangles, as the question says, and each side is 96. Here 96, and we can look at this angle because this is equilateral triangle. So every angle measures 60 degrees. So the measure of this angle is equal to 60, and now we can use this formula to apply here. So half times 96 times another 96, considering A and B, sine the angle C, which is the angle that comes between them, sine 60. All of that should be equal to the area we produced from the equation itself. It should be equal to k square root 3 over 4. And then we just write this on our calculator to get the value of k, because that's required one. This will help you to get the answer easily and without wasting any time. So half 96 times 96, like this. 96, 96, and then sine 60 degrees. You just click on the sign here and write 60. Of course, you need to close the parentheses and then write equal sign k square root 3 over 4. We just make a fraction bar, and remember to replace k by x here. Square root 3 over 4 and click shift cat and then equals to get the answer 9,216, which is the value of k. But what if you don't remember this formula? What if you do not know about it and you want to use the other way? The other way is to consider the height, because you know that the area of a triangle is half times base times height. But the base is 96 and the height here should be equal to 48, which is the half of this 96 multiplied by square root 3. And that's one of the properties of the 360-90 triangle. If you want to think about this, this is okay, but this takes some more time. But here, we use the formula that does not associate with the height. Just look at this. So no need to get the height. Half any two sides multiplied together and then multiply by the sine, the angle, whatever the angle that comes between them. That's a very simple, very easy one to use. And that's also related to trigonometry. So remember this formula and use it whenever you have to get the area of a triangle, knowing two sides and the angle that comes between them. Question number 20, the cost of renting a piece of construction equipment for up to 5 days is 270 for the first day and 135 for each additional day. Which of the following equations gives the cost y in dollars of renting the equipment for x days, where x is a positive integer and x is less than or equal to 5? How can we answer this? How can we write the linear equation like this? Of course, we use y is equal to mx plus b, but we replace b, of course, by the first day, which is 270. But we have a problem with x. We cannot consider x as it is. We have to write y is equal to m, which is for the word each. Each is 135. But here is not x. It should be x minus 1 and then plus 270. Why minus 1 here? Because this 270 is not just a fixed fee. It's for the first day and then 135 for any additional day, starting from day 2. I mean, we exclude day 1 from the equation. So this is why we exclude 1 day here. What if this 270, for example, is for the first 4 days? We write x minus 4 here. If it's 270 for the first 3 days, we say x minus 3 and so on. So we replace this x by x minus 1 because we exclude the first day, as we already mentioned it in the first part in B. So that's how to write the equation. We can write y is equal to 135, just distribute it here, 135x minus 135 plus 270. And of course, these are like terms. We need to combine them. So y is equal to 135x plus 135, which is the difference between these two numbers. And now the answer is letter A. Question 21, a line intersects two parallel lines, forming 4 acute angles and 4 obtuse angles. The measure of one of these angles, these 8 angles is not mentioned as acute or obtuse, is 7x minus 250 degrees. And the sum of the measures of 4 of the 8 angles is k. Also here, any 4, it did not mention for acute or for obtuse. Which of the following could not be equivalent to k? What is it? For all values of x. Look at this, for all values of x, so you are free to use any number instead of x. But make your number reasonable. I mean, the best method here, the best method I see through my experience in dealing with this kind of questions, is to change the x to be a number. That will help you minimize the difficulty of the question. So here we have 2 lines parallel, like this, and a transversal like this. And we have 4 angles up here and 4 angles down here. Let's name them A, B, C, D. Yeah, but if this is A and this is B, this will be also A. So no need to use C and D. If this is B, this will be B also because they are vertical angles. And this is A, this is a corresponding one. So we do the same as up here, A, B, and A here and B here. So these are the 8 angles mentioned. Consider A as obtuse, B as acute, whatever the letters used. And now we can replace X by any number. But when you choose the number, try to be reasonable. If you choose, for example, the number 50, I think 50 is okay. We cannot choose 100, for example, because 7 times 100 is 700. And when you subtract 700 minus 250, you'll get a number, a number like 450. And this angle is not 450, it's smaller than 180. So choose a number that's reasonable. You can choose 40 or 50. Let's try 50. Let X equals to 50. Now this is a very easy one to choose. Okay, let's try 7 times 50 is 350. And 350 minus 250 is 100. And this is okay to be 100. As you can see, obtuse angle is okay to be 100. So now we can say that angle A is equal to 7 times 100, 7 times 50 is equal to 350. And 350 minus 250 is equal to 100. But if A is 100, B will be what? Will be 80 because these are called linear pair. Linear pair means 2 angles on the same side, on the same line. So if A is 100, B will be 80. So now we can apply the equation here. The sum of the measures of 4 of the 8 angles, 4 of them. Oh, we have many probabilities. We have 5 probabilities for the measure to be K. The sum of the measures is K. So what the value of K in here, or which one is not the value of K? So when you consider the sum of the 4 angles, maybe the angles are all acute, maybe all of them are obtuse, maybe 2 and 2, maybe 3 and 1, whatever. So we can make something like a table like this. Maybe we have the 4 angles are all acute. Let's consider all of them are acute. So the acute angle is B, so 4B, which means 4 times 80. 4 times 80 is equal to 320. What if they are 4 obtuse? 4A, and 4 times 100 is 400. Maybe they are 2 obtuse and 2 acute, 2A plus 2B. If you calculate this, 2A means 200, 2B is equal to 80, is 160. So if you add them all together, you get 360. And that's, of course, like this. This is 360, 2A plus 2B. You can just get it from the illustration itself. Maybe 3 obtuse and 1 acute, 3A plus 1B. 3A means 300, 1B 80, so we have 380. This is one of the probabilities. And then maybe 3B plus A, 3 acute angles and 1 obtuse angle. 3B means 3 times 80 is 240, and 240 plus 100 is 340. All of these are good probabilities. One of them must be the answer. One of these is not the answer. So now we can replace X also by the same number we put up here as 50. So we can replace X by 50 in every one of them. Negative 14 times 50 is calculated here. Let's calculate all of them here. Negative 14 times 50 instead of X. And then plus 1540. You get the answer 840. Do you have 840 here? No, we do not have. So this is our answer because we need to exclude it. It's not correct. We need to get the incorrect one because the word not. What about the other options? They are okay because let's try them all. 14x minus 320. Let's try it. 14x, and x here is, as we mentioned, 50 minus 320. You get the answer 380, which is mentioned here. Let's try letter C, negative 28, negative 28x, negative 28. And instead of x, we write 50 again, plus 1720, and you get the answer 320. It's already mentioned here. And what about the last one here? 360. Yeah, it's here. So all of them are mentioned like this, this, and this, but this number is not one of them. The question says which one could not be equivalent to the value of k. Letter A is our answer. So now what if we change the 50 to be something like 40 or 45 or 60, whatever the number is, you get the same answer, even if it's not reasonable. This will be the same answer. Just try it yourself and get the answer. Question number 22. 7x plus 4y is equal to 3 and 35x plus 20y is equal to 15. For each real number r, which of the following points lies on the graph of each equation in the xy plane for the given system? Here, guys, if you look at these two equations, you consider the product. 7 times something equals to 35. Yeah, 7 times 5. And 4 times 5 is 20. And 3 times 5 is 15. This means they are the same equation. They are one equation. The first line is something like this. And the second one, where it is, it's on it. It's the same line. So no need to waste our time writing both of them on Desmos, for example. Just write one of them. And then try all of these points. But the point must be always on the line. Lies on the graph of each equation in the system for the given equation. And for each real number r, the solution should be available. So you can use Desmos in this kind of equations. And here we are. Let's try the equations. Okay, only one equation, 7x plus 4y is equal to 3. That's our equation here, and that's the graph. Then we can try to insert all of these points one by one. Let's check the first one. R over 5 plus 3, comma, negative, and then R over 5 plus 15. And here the point, where is the point? Where does the point lie? Let's see here, the point as we mentioned here. The point is not on the line. Look at this point here, it's not on the line. It should be on the line. Even if you move the value of r, change the value of r, look, it's not on the line. Maybe you can increase the domain of r, like negative 200 till 200. For example, this is up to you. Enlarge the numbers of r. Look at what happens. It moves. It comes on the line, but at one specific number, and then moves again away from the number. So this point is not on the line always. It must be always on the line. So let's start writing the second point. Let's check the second point here. Negative 4r over 7. Let's write negative here. 4r over 7. Let's change this to 7 plus 3 over 7. And then comma and r. Delete all of this and just write r. And here, just erase this one. And get just click enter, and you get this point. Yeah, that's a point on the graph itself. Even if you move the point right and left, as you can see, it always moves on the line. Let's change the range to be negative 200 till 200, and see what happens when you move this point. It's always on the line. So that's the correct answer, and that's an easier method to use instead of substitution, which takes some time for the answer.